Reaching New Heights Through Health and Happiness by Miriam Yerushalmi. Foreword, Healing and Hope by Dr. Carol Lorman, neurologist. As a neurologist, I can explain on a neurophysiological basis what happens to the brain after a head injury. As a researcher, I can tell you what happens when one's mood is suppressed or fearful. The two conditions are surprisingly similar. After many years of practicing neurobiology, I noticed that a significant number of patients, in addition to presenting with a neurological problem, also had a roster of psychological and emotional problems, such as anxiety, depression, social phobias, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and more. I also noticed that often, when even though a patient might heal quickly from the physical effects of a head injury, the emotional and psychological damage will linger and only worsen with time. The patients developed social fears and severe depression and were no longer able to function normally at home or at work. Genetics, stressful life events, biochemical brain changes, the hormonal imbalances are other factors which may play a role in the development in some people of these disorders. Whether or not they have had a head injury, the damaging emotional and psychological effects were the same whatever the cost. When I went to a medical school many years ago, we were taught to use conventional psychiatry and psychopharmacology to treat patients with emotional disorders. Yet, I realized that for a large percentage of this population, while psychiatric intervention and or medication were helpful, neither provided a long-lasting solution. I started researching other forms of psychotherapy and therapists to whom I could refer these patients. Of all the therapies I researched, cognitive behavioral therapy made the most sense to me, and I'll tell you why. Simply put, an insult to the brain injures nerve cells, or neurons. They cannot function as usual, resulting in diminished cerebral blood flow. Changes in the brain that accompany head trauma, PTSD, or mood disorders are mainly seen in the limbic system, which comprises of hippocampus, amygdala, and prefrontal cortex. The limbic system is called the seat of emotions because the prefrontal cortex regulates cognition and reason, and the amygdala regulates mood, memory, and response to frightening and threatening conditions. The amygdala and the prefrontal cortex share an inversely reciprocal relationship when the activity of one increases. The activity of the other decreases when the activity of one is lowered. The activity of the other is heightened. In the presence of fear and anxiety, the amygdala activity increases, while the ability of the prefrontal cortex to exert reason over emotion decreases. The limbic system also regulates the production of cortisol, a hormone which is released during times of physical or emotional stress. Long-term exposure to elevated cortisol levels slow the production of neurons and causes dysfunction of the neurons in the limbic system. This in turn leads to problems with memory, decision-making, regulating emotion, and social behavior. In the state of depression, the neurotransmitters regulate other hormones affecting brain chemistry, serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine are also lowered. The usual treatment has been to prescribe medication to help balance the levels of these brain chemicals and counter the negative effects of depression. Certain medical procedures are also used to help ease symptoms of depression that affect the brain, such as ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, and TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, both of which involve sending electrical impulses into the brain cells that regulate mood. However, there is mounting evidence now that a totally different modality is even more effective in changing our thinking patterns and subsequently our behavior. Psychotherapy, particularly CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT has subject to numerous clinical trials, and some long-term studies have shown that it can make very real, long-term, beneficial structural changes to the brain. These changes can be monitored using functional MRI. With the proper guidance, we can make these changes in ourselves. Miriam Yerushalmi, a renowned psychologist and family counselor, pioneered CBT, cognitive behavioral Torah tools. Therapy. Applying CBT through the lenses of Torah and Tanya, Miriam has rightfully achieved great acclaim for successfully counseling dozens of clients with CBT when other modalities did not help. She treats all her clients with love and dedication for as long as the healing process may take. A fundamental teaching Miriam uses is the statement of the Tzemach Tzedek, think good and it will be good. The actualization of a spiritual idea and spiritual energy begins to manifest in the process of thought. A positive thought will lead to a positive outlook. Miriam teaches her clients to redirect their thoughts and behavior beyond CBT into positive and beneficial patterns. In this book, Miriam presents her brain training techniques, and the readers can benefit as well. Start reading, and it will be good. Preface. From patient to practitioner. My personal story of reaching health and happiness. My goal in writing the Reaching New Heights series is to present a Jewish perspective in how to deal with life's difficulties without becoming enmeshed in external and internal negativity. This book contains observations from my personal journey of the past 30 years when I was studying the various aspects of nutrition, health, and happiness. It is particularly important to me to disseminate the information in this volume, as happiness is so central to completing our Avodat Hashem, or godly service, and health and still essential to happiness. I'll learn this through personal experience. For many years, I suffered from a multitude of serious medical issues, including but painfully not limited to severe allergic reactions that left me housebound for months or put me almost paralyzed. In the hospital for weeks, unbearable PMS for days every month, incapacitating digestive issues with such that whatever I ate for a period of 5 years, which seemed much longer, it felt as though something was eating my stomach from the inside out while punching me too. The different diagnoses and health regimes recommended by different doctors were confusing and ultimately not of long-term benefit. The more physically ill I felt, the more emotionally challenged I became. I began to question whether I ever even deserved to live. If I did, why was God smacking me so hard and so often? This finally changed when I started studying Hasidut. Hasidut taught me to change the way I address my challenges mentally, spiritually, and physically. Hasidut taught me how important it is to refine our emotions by redefining the way we eat. I started changing my diet, changing my life, and took many years of study, trial, and effort to attain and maintain a truly healthful life plan. The changes were not simply physical, did not relate only to what I put in my mouth. They relate to what went on in my head and my heart as well. My experiences and my research led me to develop holistic behavioral therapy with long-lasting success for myself and my clients. Note: it is critical to state that anyone undergoing emotional and psychiatric difficulties may require medical treatment, especially if there is any danger to oneself or others. One is sterilized if the person can become focused and perceptive. Work can begin on improving themselves using other modalities as well. Doctors do incredible work to help us heal, but we can take a greater percentage of ownership and responsibility for our physical and mental health than we may have thought possible. You know yourself, so advocate for yourself. Don't accept everything you hear without getting a second or even a third opinion. Research in brain function has shown that trauma of any kind, emotional and physical, can frazzle the brain circuits, causing them to disintegrate to varying degrees. It also has shown that the human brain has a built-in potential to recreate these circuits. Through appropriate brain training methods, including mindful meditations, it is possible to rebuild these circuits and repair most, if not all, of the damage. Modern science, though, cannot heal everything. A disorder may result from the spiritual factors, and I have seen this often. The Lubavitcher Rebbe wrote a number of letters to physicians in which he pointed out the need for people to pay attention to the spiritual elements affecting both their physical and mental health. In such cases, the spiritual factors should, of course, be addressed. In this book, I often quote from other books and teachers whose wisdom I have found helpful in my life and in my work. Much of the wisdom shared in this book I have compiled from the spiritual masters. I am, however, solely responsible for any errors that may have inadvertently crept into this book, and I'm also solely responsible for the actual selection of the ideas and comments of others that I have chosen to include. Please trust that in my sincere intention to help, not, God forbid, to hurt. I do believe in brushing under the rug or ignoring the pain that many people are suffering. If in discussion the challenges and my approach to dealing with them. Some parts of my books seem overly spiritual or theological and out of touch with the reality of your specific circumstances. I ask your forgiveness in advance. The information that I present here has proven to be very helpful to me and many others, and I offer it in the hope that it will be helpful to you as well. I also hope that the sympathy and compassion I feel toward those who are in very difficult and painful situations, whether in relationships, health, or finances, comes through in these pages as it does in real life in my sessions. I hope that this book leaves you feeling well mentally, physically, and spiritually, and it helps you become or continue to be proactive in maximizing your health. Better health will lead to increased happiness, and increasing happiness will positively affect your health. The Torah commands us, look after yourself very well. Deuteronomy 4:15. And it also reminds us that I, the Lord, heal you. Exodus 15:26. We do our part, but ultimately we are the loving care of Hashem, the divine healer. May we all be blessed to reach new heights through health and happiness. About Israel, Miriam Yerushalmi.